My name is Vito DeLuca. I'm the Luzerne County Solicitor, and I'm here today to tell you a little bit about the Luzerne County Home Rule Charter, which will be on the ballot in Luzerne County on November 2nd. I'd first like to say that I am not against the concept of home rule. I voted for the Home Rule Study Commission to be formed, and I voted for members to be appointed to a government study commission to study our form of government, come up with some recommendations, and prepare a charter if needed. I could tell you though that I've reviewed the charter. I'm very familiar with the Luzerne County, the code that's currently in effect, and this home rule charter is a step backward. I call it Luzerne County Home Rule Charter, the undemocratic democracy, and I'll start by giving you what I consider to be some charter lowlights. First of all, the charter calls for a county executive form of government with a county executive, county manager system. I don't have problems specifically with the county manager, county council form of government, but I do have problems specifically with this county executive, county manager form of government, and I'll tell you why. First of all, this county executive will be appointed by county council, not elected by the voters. This is one of the main issues that I have with this charter, that the people, the voters of Luzerne County, will not get to choose the person who is the head of the executive office of Luzerne County government. The county executive has what I have been calling obscene powers. The county executive has complete authority over hiring, firing, and discipline of all but a few of the county's 1,900 employees. Now, just so you realize, the way things work now is that in Luzerne County we have 3 county commissioners. All hiring and firing takes place at a public meeting in front of the public, and the commissioners take a public vote on the hiring or firing. Under this system, the county executive, behind closed doors, will basically make all hiring and firing decisions outside the view of the public. The charter proponents have been saying that this new form of government is transparent, more transparent than the form of government we have now. Clearly this is a way that it's not, and it has so much to do with these ridiculous powers that are granted to this appointed county executive. The county executive also has complete power to negotiate and award all contracts under $25,000. And actually, I have to explain to you a little bit. The reality is the county executive has the complete power to negotiate and award all contracts, not just contracts under $25,000, but all contracts. But the reason why I put the $25,000 figure in here is the fact that under $25,000, the contract is not required to be put out for public bid. They are not required to put out advertising for vendors, so the county executive would have the complete authority to basically go out, call a few people on the telephone, and choose whichever vendor he or she wanted to choose without having it put out for public bids. And I'm going to get to a little bit more detail about the issues regarding contracting and purchasing under this new form of government. And the other thing that you should realize is this $25,000 threshold that I just talked to you about could be raised by county council at any point. Currently, the county code has an absolute ceiling of $10,000. Anything above $10,000 must be put out for public bid. It must be solicit sealed bids, and that is not subject to being increased at all by the county commissioners. So you can see, just in those 2 powers alone, the county executive, how much power he or she will have, the fact that the people cannot get rid of this person when they feel the person isn't doing a good job, I believe is a huge flaw with this charter. Let's talk about the 11-member council now. This is another major issue that I have with this charter. I have no problem generally with the concept of 11 members sitting on council. My issue with the council is that, number one, they're part-time. County government, we have about a $130 million budget. We have 1,900 employees. This is not really a job for part-time council. Second of all, and this is also a very important issue to me, I live in Franklin Township, which is a small township on the north side of Luzerne County. The positions are elected at large, and what that means is all the candidates will be listed on the ballot. The top 11 vote getters throughout Luzerne County will be the ones who sit on council. People who live in townships, boroughs, small cities, small areas throughout Luzerne County will very unlikely have adequate representation in those areas. And I would suggest to you that it's reasonable to believe that that certain population centers would end up with a majority of county council members, and they would control the county's $130 million budget and 1,900 employees. There are no provisions in this charter for minority party representation on council. Now, when we talk about some of the words that they've been throwing around when they're pushing this charter, they talk about accountability, they talk about transparency, and they talk about checks and balances. And one of the checks and balances we have in the current system right now is we have elected row officers who are accountable directly to the people, and we have provisions in the county code for minority party representation. And what the minority party representation does is it puts someone from an opposing party in a place of prominence in the government who will be able to act as a watchdog and keep an eye over what the majority is doing. And we've seen in different instances how that works, not only in local government, county, state, and national government. The other issue that I didn't think was really a big deal at first, and I thought maybe was one of the few bright shining lights in this charter, was the concept of term limits. The charter provides term limits of 3 terms for county council members, and as well for other offices. The concern that I had that was raised by our controller, Walter Griffith, recently, and when I had discussions with him about the term limit issue, was the concern that we had about those county council people who are in their last and final term, about some of the lack of accountability they would have to the voters for making the right decisions that's in the best interest of the voters when they're in their last term. Because if they're in their last term, they have nothing to gain, if you think about it, by following along with the wishes of the voters, because they can't run again for county council anyway. The concern really is, if you look deep into the charter, the county council has the right at any point to raise their own salaries. They start off with a salary of $8,000 for each of the 11 council members, which is, of course, $88,000. They could raise the salaries at any point, and it would be most logical that in the last term that these elected council members would consider at that point raising the salaries of the remaining council members. And the problem with that, of course, is that you have to multiply any raise that they would grant themselves by 11. Let's talk about some charter untruths. And with this format, with being able to show you a PowerPoint, show you things in black and white, show you what the people have said by quoting them, show you what the statutes say, what the county code says, what the charter says. This format really gives us the best ability to see and compare apples to apples, compare the charter to compare the code. And so what I plan to do for you is lay out for you some of the things that have been said about this charter versus what the charter actually does say. A great man from Seinfeld, George Costanza, once said that it's not a lie if you believe it. And the reality is, some of the things that the proponents of this charter have been saying, I believe they've said it so many times that they're actually starting to believe it themselves. First charter untruth, which is, I believe, borders on an actual fraud on the people and the voters, is the allegation that there is some sort of tax cap or cap on taxes in the charter. Here's what they say. In the report of findings and recommendations, that's actually in the Government Study Commission report, it says that the recommended charter will prevent the imposition of ruinous tax increases on Luzerne County property owners. That's on page 16 of the Report of Findings and Recommendations of the Luzerne County Government Study Commission. Also in that same report, when they cite decision-making reforms that they've made, they indicate as one of the problems they've identified as that the current form of government has no limitations on annual tax increases. The charter reform, this is what they're proposing, and this is what they claim the charter does. They claim that the charter imposes a limitation of 8% on any year-to-year tax increase. Now that's from page 23 of the Findings and Recommendations of the Luzerne County Government Study Commission. Now, just as an aside, I know a lot had been made about the problems that the people who were against this charter had with the Government Study Commission being permitted to publish the charter. The fact is this, that we had no problem with the charter being published. Our problem that we had was with the Report of Findings and Recommendations of the Government Study Commission being published. Because it's items like these that were in the Government Study Commission report that were basically flat out misstatements of what the law is and misstatements of what this charter is able